we are going to get started. A lot of people showed up on time today. Thank you very much. It means a lot to me. Makes me want to cry. But today is Thursday. What does that mean? That means it is Friday tomorrow. Thank goodness. It's Halloween weekend, full moon, Saturday Halloween. Okay. So here's what we're going to talk about today. It's kind of a jumbled mess, but we are working on the I'm going to move this camera over. Wrong way. It's going to go right by my head. Okay, and we're working on the timbre door. Okay. Oh, I got somebody coming in here. So here's the thing. I'm basically, well, with a few exceptions, ready to glue this up. But this is third or second period's project, so I want to do it during their class. But I want to show you guys what's going on here and how this thing works, because it's pretty slick how this little jig works. Okay, so here's what the jig is all about. Okay, it's made up of this assembly right here, and a jig. Just so you understand what a jig is just simply something that you create or you purchase and that is used to enhance a certain process, assist in a certain process, make a certain process more accurate, or make it repeatable where you can do the same process over and over and over and get the same results. So a jig is just something, it's like a third hand a lot of times. It helps in certain situations, and in this situation it makes this kind of thing possible. So this thing's made up of a base that's 32 wide by 36 long. It's got a fixed stop here at the back. I got another person coming in late. Come on, people. Okay, it's got this piece down here is a fixed stop. It's screwed down to the table. I am done. I'm not doing it anymore. That's this 2.5 wide piece by 30, and this is such a random number. I don't know why they made it 30 and 11/16. It makes absolutely no sense. It's just some random number. And then there is a fixed cleat over here. This guy has a rabbit on it right here, and this guy is attached permanently to the edge. This is a removable cleat. It's exactly the same as the fixed cleat, but it's not put in place until the end. And then once everything's glued up, it's removed again. This end stop right here is also not put in place until you're ready to start gluing. And then it's removed after the glue sets to be able to get the timbre door out. So let's show you what we actually have here. Okay, so here we go. This is just annoying. I'm done letting people in. All right, so here's how this thing works. It's pretty slick. I kind of like it. We've done a couple of these projects before. Students have done them in the past, but they never went to the trouble of building this jig. They tried doing it in an existing jig we had. It just didn't work the same way. Okay, so here's how this works. Here's our timbre slats. 40 of these little guys that have a slight round over to one surface. It's flat on the opposite surface. So the round over is going to go down with the flat surface up. Okay, so basically these things slip right into this rabbet on the other side. There's 40 of these slats. I actually got, out of the boards I had, I thought I was going to get about 70 to 75. I actually got 82 slats. And I only need 40, but as I said before, it's a good idea to have some extras in case the routing process that puts this round over on it eats up some of them. And the other reason I wanted extras is, and I got lucky and I got enough to do 2 of them, completely do 2 of them, is because we have 2 different processes for gluing the canvas onto the back of these slats. And one of them we've never tried before. It's one that we found online. We watched a video on it second period about how they do it. We've always used contact cement, which is that stuff that you brush on both surfaces, let it set, and then as soon as it touches, it sticks like rubber glue. Basically what it is rubber glue. That's how we've done it in the past, and that's a bit of a pain. It's messy. It just doesn't work as well as it should. So we get the luxury, since we have enough to do 2 of these doors, of trying the new process using regular glue first. If that fails, if it doesn't work, we have enough slats to do a second door using the normal process that we've done in the past for this kind of stuff. So we've got all these little guys, 40 of these boogers. They slip right in, right into that rabbet. Some of these are pretty warped. They've gone kind of crazy once they got cut off the board. And what's really cool is there's all kinds of gaps in here right now. I don't know if you guys can see it, but they're not the same height. There's gaps because of the warping, stuff like that. But it's kind of magic the way this works. Get under there. We're going to get this in. So normally what we do is, once we get them all in there like that, we put this removable cleat down and screw it down. But I'm not ready to do that yet. I need to kind of glue proof this before we do it, and I want to make absolutely sure that these guys are all tucked into that rabbet real well. All right, this guy goes here. I'm just going to set a clamp on it for now to hold it in place. We'll get one here. Get one here. So we still have all kinds of gaps in these things, right? So here's the sweet part. I don't know if you guys can see the gaps or not. I'll turn it a little bit, and you can kind of see all these little gaps and stuff in here. We can't have that. They've got to be snug right up against each other. So here's what we do. We take a couple clamps. We're going to set one right there at that end. And we're going to pull those guys together. All those little gaps. We're going to do the same on the other side. Clamp on it. Get rid of all the gaps. Closes up so nice. And basically what we have, so at this point, once you get all the gaps out, you take a moment and you make sure everything's flat. Nothing's sticking up, it's smooth all the way along. So at this point, you would end up mounting this in cleat right here. You just screw it down, so then you can take the clamps off, holds everything in place. Now, if you look at this, when you saw all the gaps before, this really almost looks like a solid piece of oak. It's just great. I mean, this is what I mean when a jig is intended to make a process easier to do, to make a process more accurate. This is doing multiple things for us. It's making it tremendously easy to glue these up. They're going to be very snug, very tight. There's going to be no gaps. It's a great way to hold it while the glue sets. It's just going to be fantastic. Okay, so we're going to glue that up probably tomorrow. I think tomorrow. I'm not positive, maybe. But until then, we've got some other things I want to show you guys. Let me bring this over here. And if I can push the right button. Yeah, push the right button. Okay, so here's what we have now. Come on, go up. All right, so I want to talk a little more about jigs because we use a lot of jigs in this class. Almost every day we're using some sort of jig, whether it's one that we've made ourselves to ease a process or one that we purchased. We keep most of our jigs that are worth anything that worked well. We keep them, we store them somewhere so that the next person that wants to do that same project doesn't have to go through the process of remaking that jig. We've got a whole wall over there with stuff like that mounted to it. We've got stuff on top of the cabinets. We've got just stuff everywhere. It's crazy. Okay. So let's show you some different jigs here that we use. Okay. We're going to start with some stuff that are used in our guitar classes, or going to be used in our guitar classes. For example, this is a spruce top for an acoustic guitar. Okay. And when we start these, all right, when we start these guys, there's no sound hole cut out of it. Okay. So that allows us to take a little guy like this right here. This is what's called a rosette rabbiting jig or rosette jig. And basically, always around the sound hole of these things, you'll see a decorative inlay, right? So there's a channel routed or cut out of the material, and these inlay are pressed down into it and glued down into the channel. And that's what this is for. It's got a little brass bushing right here that can be adjusted however far from this hole, okay? We've got a handheld little Dremel router that mounts right here, and that we drill a hole in the very center of where this rosette is going to be, in the middle of the sound hole, where that's still there. And it allows us to set a pin and route a perfect circle around that sound hole. So that's just a little sound hole or a rosette jig. A couple other things we use. This one right here, this is an interesting one. I'm going to zoom in on this because it's got a lot going on. Okay, let's see if I can get in here on this. Come on, zoom. This thing has been doing some freaky things lately. Come on, zoom. There it goes. So this one's kind of cool. I like this. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. This is one of my favorite little jigs. Because in the past, I don't know if you guys know what inlays are on a fretboard, but it's some of the fancy little stuff that's placed in guitar fretboards like lettering or initials or dots or mother of pearl and abalone and things like that. Okay, and that's what this does for us. Okay, it's a little spring-loaded, right? And it's got a depth stop. You can actually set this depth stop anywhere you want. So you go to a specific depth and it'll stop. Once you get to that depth, you can lock it at that depth. Okay. It's also got, oddly enough, a little headlight, right, that helps to see what you're doing. And it took me a while to figure out how to turn this headlight off. Didn't want to turn it off before. Okay. What it is a Dremel mounts in here with a bit down here, so you can plunge down into your work, and very, 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 very tiny little bit. And this allows you to, by hand, route recesses for inlays in your fretboard. Okay, so it's really pretty intense, kind of neat. It's also got, like most of these little router jigs we have, it's got a little tube right here that a hose will slip over. And then it's got like a fish tank pump that pumps air, and it'll pump air into here, and it blows all the sawdust out of your workspace. So you don't have to sit there and blow it out of there. It automatically keeps the work area clean so you can see what you're doing. So that's a inlay routing jig. Okay, cool little guy. This right here is a similar kind of animal. A Dremel mounts here in this threaded hole. It's got a port for an air hose to blow sawdust away from your work. But this guy actually has a little additional thing mounted to the bottom of it. And what this is this is a guide. This is a little bearing right here. This rolls, okay? And this is a guide. And what it is once you get the top mounted to a guitar and the back mounted to a guitar, you have to put binding around the edges. And you guys probably have seen binding. It's that white or black trim, looks like plastic trim that goes all the way around the edge of the guitar. And that's what this is for. This allows you, once the side is in place, that little bearing right there, whoops, that little bearing right there will follow the edge of the guitar and allow you to route the channel that you glue the binding into. Okay, so that's a little binding routing jig in a jig. Okay. Another thing we use all the time, whether it's acoustic or electric guitars, is these little guys. We have several of these little guys, and what it is, it consists of a couple of bearings right here, and another guy right here that has a channel in it. And then it's adjustable, so you can move this part closer to those bearings or further away from those bearings. It's got a little handle here. But what this does is all of our fret wire we put in ourselves. We do our own fret work, and our fret wire has to be pre-bent. Okay, all the fretboards on electric guitars, with a couple of exceptions, we've done a couple of custom ones, have what's known as a 12-inch radius on the fretboard. Now, if you look at a fretboard on a guitar, at least on our electric ones, okay, the face of the fretboard is curved at a 12-inch radius. We've got specialty beams that we've made that you attach sandpaper to that have a curve on the inside that allows you to sand this radius this way. Well, the fret wire has to be pre-bent before you can install the fret wire. This fretboard has not been radiused, but once it is, this fret wire, after it's been pre-bent, will drop right into those fret slots. And that's what this little guy's for, is you put it in a vise, and then this has got a tang down here. It's kind of shaped like a T. It's got a crown with a piece hanging down. And basically, you just kind of clamp this in one of our vices. That tang rides in that groove, and you sit there and crank it, and it takes a straight piece of fret wire and puts a radius on it. So we use that all the time when we're prepping our fret wire for the fretwork on our guitars. Another one is this. This is an interesting little jig. This is another store-bought jig. And I'm trying to get this up. This is one we got not that long ago. We have not physically used it yet, but we've used something similar to it. This is what this is. This is going to allow us to make our own fretboards, okay? These fretboards have to have slots in them at very, very, very specific locations along the length of the board, and they've got to be a very specific depth, and they've got to be perfectly perpendicular to the edge of the fretboard. So normally, a fretboards, we start with a blank with nothing going on. This one is actually all ready to go. It's tapered already. In other words, it's more slender at this end and it's wider at the far end. And basically how this works is you take your material, you get it down to the proper thickness, you get it down to a consistent width. It won't be tapered, it'll be parallel edges. Then you can slide this guy in here. Okay. You'll clamp it down. And there's another part to this jig that is a template. It's basically called an indexing template that allows you to place this fretboard in the proper spot. Then you take what's called a dozuki. This is a Japanese pull saw. Very, very thin blade. I mean, incredibly thin blade. And it cuts on the pull stroke. You can see it's very flexible. Basically, there's bearings in here on both sides. So you have two things you set. You set the location of the fret along the length of the board, and you set the depth that you're going to cut to. There's another part to this that you can set the depth to. And this allows you to come in here and cut your fret slots by hand, and it controls it, okay? So that's how we're gonna make our own fretboards. La-ti-da, right? Okay, there's our fretboard, fretboard making jig, okay? Oh, I gotta put this in there. I don't wanna lose that. That's the instructions. You do not want to lose the instructions. All right, so next on the list of things. So here's a very common jig. We've had this thing forever. We've used it a ton of times. So imagine you're going to make a sub-boss for a subwoofer in your car, right? You guys probably all know what that is. That's the guy going down the street going boom, 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 forcing everybody to listen to his music. Okay, so basically, we've done quite a few of those in here, and this thing will not. There we go. Okay, so basically, that's what this is for. This is a circle cutting jig. Okay, very similar to this little guide that we use for the rosettes for the guitars. Okay, this allows us to do a circle of any diameter up to, this will do a 48-inch diameter, 24-inch radius. So here's how this works. We attach a router to one end. It's got a little guy right here that you loosen, and it's got a pin right here. You can slide anywhere you want. So let's say I want to make a 12-inch diameter hole for a 12-inch subwoofer. Okay, all you have to do is take a tape measure and set it so the 12-inch mark is on the outside of your hole. You'll drill a small hole about the diameter of this little pin right here in your material. Then you can take it, drop that pin right into that hole. It locks in that hole. Now all you have to do is drop the router into it, and you're cutting your circle. Okay, so we use this a lot. We've used this a ton of time. These are very easy to make yourself, but I think I bought one at a show one. I think I bought this at a show one time for next to nothing. It's acrylic, it's marked and everything, so it really works well. Very, very nice piece of machinery for jig. A couple others we have here. We're gonna go over the table saw. If this thing will move, and it will. And I'm gonna go down a little bit. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, I hope. And okay, so I don't know if you guys know. Let me see if I have an example over here. I think I have an example. This will give you an idea. So we have a couple of different. Let me blow this off. Just a couple of dust. Cough. We have a couple different ways to do, for example, dovetails. So this is, you guys can see this. This is a dovetail joint. Okay, you kind of see how it works. It goes together like this, locks together. Okay, we've got a couple jigs that we can do that with. It's actually sitting up on the top of the cabinets, and it's a pain to get down, so I'm not going to try and get it down. But there's another joint that's very similar to a dovetail joint. That's just square fingers that interlock together like this. You can pull them out this way or this way. You can't do that to a dovetail joint. It's called a box joint or finger joint. And that's what this little jig does. Okay, a box joint jig. And this allows you to place some material right here. We normally do this on a dado saw. Make a cut. Index is in place so you know exactly how far over your boards move. Make the next cut, make the next cut, make the next cut. And you've got a little finger joint. It's kind of hard to visualize. Next week sometime, we may go ahead and cut some finger joints so you guys can see it being done. I run out of other things to do. So that's a finger joint jig or a box joint jig. Okay. You guys have all seen our miter sled. And this is the jig that we made. The only thing we didn't make were little runners on the bottom of it. And this miter sled is what we use to do the trim around the drawers on that cabinet. And it works very simply. You probably couldn't really see what was going on as small as those pieces are. This basically cuts a perfect 45-degree miter. So imagine a picture frame. All right, nice, perfect 45-degree miter. We've got the same thing, or a similar thing, I should say, in our cutoff sled. So normally we could use a miter gauge to cut to length on the table saw, but it only has a capacity and width of about 12 inches. This increased our capacity for doing cutoffs on the table saw. Basically, it gives us a fence where we can put our board here instead of here, like on the miter gauge, and we can cut to length using this, and it's a perfect 90 degrees, really good. Another machine we have, not machine, jig, it's what's called a tenon jig, okay? For example, a mortise and tenon joint is basically a square hole, the mortise, that's cut on our mortising machine, and a square plug or peg that fits in the mortise, which is called the tenon. And this is how it's done. It's how the tenon portion is done. Well, there's more than one way to do it, so I shouldn't say that. So, for example, let's say I want to put a tenon on the end of this, okay? And I know how long my tenon is going to be. Let's say it's going to be 1.5 inches long. I mark the length of my tenon. I give myself a line. And let's say that the thickness of the tenon, or this dimension, is going to be, oh, I don't know. Let's say this is about 1 inch thick. Let's say it's going to be about a little over 1/2 inch, a little under a 1/2 inch tenon. So I've got it marked. All I have to do, basically, is set the blade height to the length of the tenon. And anytime we set blade height on any machine, we always want to move up to the height we want, never lowering the blade to the height we want, always going up. So I'll drop it below the line, now I'm bringing it up to the line. That's the length of our tenon. The width of our tenon, or the width of our tenon, is shown with these two lines. All I have to do, clamp this in, unlock this movable base. This base can shift left and right. All I have to do is bring this up, line it up with my teeth, get it adjusted right where I want, lock it. Now all I have to do flip it around, cut the other teeth. So that's got our cheek cuts. This is called the cheek portion of the tenon. So you can kind of see what we've cut so far. Those are the cheeks. Now what we need to do is cut those pieces off. Easiest way to do it is using a miter gauge, which is this guy right here. And our miter gauge, our miter slot. Now the problem we have here is being sure to make the consistent cut on the length of the tenon. So basically what we need to do is I'm going to clamp a temporary stock to this fence. All I have to do is line this up. Oh, I gotta set my blade height first. Drop it below where I want to be. Bring it up. This will take it off to the right height. Boom. Now I set where the cut's going to be. Right there on the line. Bring the fence over. Lock it. Now all I have to do tenon. The only thing left to do, if it's necessary to do so, depending on the design of the mortise and the tenon, is to cut these shoulders off here. So it's not quite so wide. So it's pretty easy. The nice thing about these jigs is they really increase your production time. Once you get everything set up, you can just make tenons all day long. It's great for students that have a bunch of tenons due for a table or a chair or something like that, and they want to be accurate and they want to be consistent. So that's our tenoning jig. So that is just a little primer on, oh, it looks like we got somebody wanting to get in. Let me let them in real quick. Let's see here. Okay, that's just a little talk about what happened when. I'm just trying to see what if anybody had any questions or anything. There's no screen share. Oh, okay. RIP Halloween. Why is Halloween resting in peace? Because you can't trick or treat with COVID? Yes, you can. Who said you can't? I've got it all set up, man. I don't have to get within 10 feet of a kid. They can grab their own candy. I still have control over how much candy. I've got a trough. I'm going to slide candy down. They don't have to worry about a thing. So it's going to be just fine. You know, yeah, I know there's quite a few people going camping and stuff. So yeah, it's just a slide for candy. Exactly. It's exactly what it is, Kevin. Thank you. If you're going to take candy from Take One Bowls, you better only take one, Deegan. Leave some for the rest of us. All right, so that's just a little class on what jigs are and sort of jigs we use in here and what we use them for, and how useful they are. There's a lot of processes we couldn't do without some of the jigs that we have. So that is all I have for today, folks. I want you guys to make sure you get your name in the chat window. Thank you for being here. If you got here on time, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it tremendously. If you did not get here on time, please try to do so tomorrow. Take care of yourself tonight. Tomorrow's Friday, thank goodness. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. And bye-bye, everyone.